All right. So, welcome everybody to our OLLI program, our OLLI Fall program, near death experiences and spiritually transformative experiences. And my name is Catherine, and I'm so happy today because we have an amazing speaker. And I had the privilege of meeting Evan this year at the IANS conference, International Association for Near Death Studies, and it was a wonderful event. And Evan actually was the chair of, right? You were the chair of the conference, yes, and he headed that whole conference, which is an amazing task. I can't even imagine how much went into that. And so, anyway, Evan has graciously agreed to come and share his journey with us, and I just can't wait to hear your story, Evan. Thank you so much for being here and welcome.
You. Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you this morning. I'm grateful for the opportunity. It was nice to meet a few of you early on this morning and um, get to talk about how amazing our lives are and where we live being so beautiful. Also, I love the conversation about how Zoom has sort of changed the world for everyone. It's the one good thing. Maybe there was others, but it's the one good thing that came out of the COVID isolation. And I use Zoom every single day. I get to see the lovely faces of the people I work with, and I love and treasure on my computer screen, and we get to look into each other's eyes and to see the emotions on our faces. It's a terrific way to communicate, and I'm grateful for it. Thank you for inviting me, Catherine. I appreciate that as well. Catherine is active with IANS and does a lot of good work for us. And we're very grateful to have her as a member and a supporter of IANS. My story. This is an interesting topic for me, obviously. I had an experience that changed my life, altered my direction, and opened me up to better understanding of who I am. And I was able to grasp the path that I'm now following. And after all of the pain and difficulty that this experience has caused me, I'm very grateful to have had it. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share it. We were all talking this morning about the weather, and my change in direction, my near-death experience took place when the weather wasn't so nice. It took place many years ago, and I was working in the Rocky Mountain area, and I was starting a brand new job, and I was excited about it. It was a big step up the ladder in business for me. It was allowing me to be a better provider for my family. And I was dealing with a brand new company, and it was being asked to help guide its direction into the marketplace. And I was very, very excited about it. I moved from Southern California into the state of Utah. And I was living on one side of a mountain range, and I was driving to work until I could find a place to live on the other side of the mountain range. And so every day I was making this drive over the top of the mountains. and then back again in the morning, and it was very difficult. It was the end of March, and any of you who have been in the higher mountains know that March is still pretty much a winter month. And I was driving on roads that often were ice covered and sometimes snow covered. This specific night that I was heading back home, I had stayed really late at the office, and it was quite cold and it was dark. And as I began my crossing over the mountain range, I could see that the sun had melted some of the snow along the sides of the road, and that water had gone out onto the highway, and it was beginning to freeze. And I thought, oh, there's going to be ice as I get higher up. I continued my drive, and I was tired. I was anxious to get home. I was traveling way too fast for the conditions. And as I went over a little rise in the road, and my headlights came back down onto the highway, I looked ahead and there was a very large mule deer. You know, a mule deer is a lot bigger than a lot of the species of deer that are on the East Coast or the far West Coast of our country. And it's a very large animal. It was a male deer with a large rack or set of horns on the top of it. And it was standing right smack dab in my lane as two-lane highway. So I quickly decided that if I didn't want the deer in my lap, I would have to go around the deer. So I dipped my wheels to the left, and I missed the deer, and I turned quickly back to get the automobile back into my lane of traffic, and absolutely nothing happened. I had hit a patch of ice on that road, and my automobile just continued straight on, right down the hill and right into the other lane of traffic. And the first vehicle that I was approaching was a semi-truck. I was driving a small automobile, and it flashed into my mind in a split second that, oh my gosh, this is going to be a head-on collision. That's the last thing I remember. And my judgment was correct. My automobile did fly right into that semi-truck who was driving very fast, and it literally cut my vehicle in half from behind the front driver's side tire all the way back to the rear tail lights on the right side of the vehicle. Everything was just torn away and gone. And the truck had hit my left arm and my back and my rib cage, and I was severely damaged and thrown to the floor of my automobile. I have no idea how much time passed, but I awakened and I was laying on the floor of my vehicle, and I could see the steering wheel above my face. I reached my right arm up to put my elbow on the seat and pull myself up, and my right arm didn't respond in any way. I couldn't move. I tried other ways to move, and I was pretty much unable to move any of my limbs. And every time I did try to move, I was in severe pain. So I laid back down on the floor of the vehicle. It was, as I said, the end of March. It's very cold at 9,000 feet in the Rocky Mountains at the end of March, and the cold was creeping into the vehicle, and I was starting to shiver. Time went on. A very kind lady came to the side of my car and asked me if I was okay. I said, no, I don't think I am. I can't move. And she said that people had, this is before cell phones, So she said to me that people had driven down the road to a farmhouse to make a phone call and call for the first responders. And I said I was grateful, and she backed away from the car. At that time, I was starting to feel the pain from my injuries. I tried to move again. I knew that my back had been injured. I was having difficulty breathing. I could not move my left or right arm. And there was a severe pain in the center of my back. I didn't feel much below the center of my back. It was a numb feeling that was probably a blessing, that I wasn't able to see or feel the damage that was done below. It became very quiet. I became filled with pain, and I became very concerned that I had been hurt enough that I might be dying. I had no idea at the time, but my spleen had been ruptured and I was bleeding very severely internally. And that was something that was going to be unrecoverable from. And I began to lose consciousness. I began to fade in and out. Then something happened to me. I became able to somehow focus, and my mind took over. And I began to have thoughts about my family. I began to have thoughts about my life. And as I struggled to maintain consciousness, my mind went back in time, and I had the most amazing experience of reviewing my life. It started when I was a tiny child, and it took me through so many events in my life. They were not the big events. They were not about school. They were not about learning how to ride a bike or anything that was important to a young person. They weren't about girlfriends. They weren't about things that I had done that I was proud of in my life. They were the little things, the things that I had not even considered to be important. I was in a field as a young boy walking, and I remember talking to Jesus at the time and having a conversation. I was taken to places where I had behaved poorly with other people. I was taken to times in my life where I had done good things from my heart. I began to see the interesting aspects of what life was truly about. It wasn't necessarily about the big things. It was how we live our life, how we interact with everyone else. I saw how impactful a kind word could be to someone, how that could lift them out of depression, and how a kind act would rearrange the, the depression and sweep it away from someone who's being given a kind gesture. I saw how important how we touch and work with other people, how we conduct ourselves, how we own our emotions, how we control our ego. It was a lovely experience. And I realized how blessed I was. I came from a lovely family. My parents were supportive and kind and loving. I saw how I had fallen in love and how I had 4 lovely children that were part of my life and how important they were to me. And when I had gone through all of this, I felt incredibly blessed and incredibly loved. And I was very, very grateful. I realized as well that as I had moved into this frame of thinking where my mind and heart had become embracing of all of my experiences, that the cold had disappeared and the pain had disappeared. I wrote something years ago that I want to read you this morning about this moment that I was experiencing. I saw I had been given a blessed life, loving, sustaining parents, experiences that tested but did not overwhelm or defeat my mind, body, or soul. I have 4 amazing children and a loving wife. My mind and heart express ardently that if my life was over, if this twinkling of physical existence was complete, and there was nothing left after death but blackness, I was contented and grateful. In that moment, I willingly slipped into the darkness as if moving into a kind, embracing sun. I love that summary because that's exactly what I experienced. I felt that I had lived a blessed life that I was grateful for. I was grateful for my experiences. I was grateful for all those that were in my life, my parents, my children, my wife, my friends, and I was grateful. And even though I had no direct knowledge that there was anything else, I decided that I would be grateful. I remember slipping away and it started right at my toes. And it was as if my spirit was moving up through my body and leaving my body and the bottom and the floor of that car. And as if a warm blanket was being pulled up, I slipped into the darkness. I learned a very great lesson at that moment. Dying is easy. I found myself laying on my face. It was a place I'd never been before. It was dark. I pushed myself down on the ground. My hands found firmament. It was an unusual feeling. I knew I was someplace else. And I pushed myself up. And as I did, I was able to see that I was on a firmament. It was as if there was a ground fog. It was warm. I was comfortable. I pushed myself further up and began to come to an erect position. And I looked out into the most beautiful starry I had ever seen. And something that was astounding to me was that to my left was this. That's the Milky Way galaxy. And it was right before my eyes. And it was spinning through the universe. And the rest of the sky was filled with stars and filled with colors. And as if someone had painted amazing colors of pink and violet and yellow against a night sky. It was absolutely astoundingly beautiful. I found myself feeling incredibly comfortable. It is as if all the weight of the material world had been lifted from me. I looked out and around my environment and I saw what appeared to be human forms. They were not in body and they were not defined as a body, but they were linear and they were light and they were beautiful. And the light was white. And there was a group of them, and inside my mind, they were calling to me. I looked at them, and as soon as I acknowledged them with a thought, I began moving in their direction. I was not walking, I was floating. And I arrived there. As I approached, they opened up their circle and they surrounded me. And they filled me with energy and filled me with light and filled me with healing. And my mind was filled with their kind thoughts, with their welcoming thoughts, with a behavior of kindness that was overwhelming. And I felt buoyed up, and I felt comfortable, and I felt embraced. I felt incredible love. Every single thing that a moment before, when I was laying in that automobile in the material world, all of the heaviness that I felt, all of the pain, all of the stress and the angst, all of my concerning thoughts about how my family would get on without me. How would I recover? How would they pay for a roof over their head? How would they pay to feed themselves? What problems would they be faced with in order to move on without me, who was the sole breadwinner of the family? My concerns about my career, my concerns about my life, all of those things, everything that makes us human disappeared from my mind, disappeared from my heart. And I felt nothing but kindness, welcoming, and love. There was no judgment. There was no critical thought being directed at me. Only kindness and only love. And I drank that in. And I felt that no matter what happens as I move forward, everything would turn out exactly as it was supposed to. As I looked out into the universe and as I felt the loving kindness that was being poured out upon me, I realized how incredible the creation is. I realized that no matter how small a part of this immense creation I was, that I was an important part. I felt that everyone, every soul, every spirit that was surrounding me was a part of that, and that I was a part of them, and they were a part of me. And I felt for the first time that I was a molecule of the creation. I was a molecule of God. And that what I have been doing an important part of this immense, multidimensional creation. And again, I was grateful. I was grateful to be a part of all of this that was going on around me. But the vision that I was seeing of such an immense universe without end was beyond any comprehension that my poor little mind could grasp at that moment. As time went on, there is no time. I was told that I had to make a decision. And I queried, what decision do I have to make? I was told that I'm welcome to stay, that this is my home, and that I'm welcome to stay. But I also can choose. Amazing. I can choose. Me being a tiny little piece of this enormous creation. And yet I can choose. I can choose to go back. And it was that about entertaining. The first thing I thought about was my children. And I thought how wonderful it would be to see how they grow up, to be a part of that, to be an influence in them, and to see them go through the things that I have. And as I thought about my children and my family on earth, I was shot back like a rocket, back to the material realm, back into my body. I found my soul being forced back into this broken human body, laying in this car. And it was painful, and it was cold, and it was agonizing. And there was things going on all around me. The first responders were there, and they were using the jaws of life to tear off the roof of my car. And when that didn't work, they jammed it into the passenger side door and they ripped it off. They quickly and as gently as they could slip the bodyboard under me, strap me to it. And every time they moved me, I was screaming in pain. And they pulled me from the car and loaded me on to the gurney and into the ambulance. I was later to find out that it was a very long drive up from the bottom of the mountain where there was a small town. And in the small town, there was a small hospital. And it was over 35 minutes just to get down. The synchronicities started immediately. As the ambulance pulled into the hospital, I was told that you're very lucky that this little hospital decided that there was so many accidents on this mountain road, and they were very close to an interstate and another intersecting highway, that this hospital is inundated with accidents, automobile accidents, on a regular basis. And that it was so often that they decided that they would start a trauma team. And they obtained the funding and they went out all across the United States and they brought in an entire trauma team, over 8 doctors from all around the country who were top in their fields. And that these doctors had all moved to this small little town. And that the night that I arrived was the first time that they had all come to the hospital to meet each other and have a meeting on how they would go forward. And I would be attended by the best trauma doctors in the country. And they brought me into the hospital, and the trauma doctors were all there, and they worked on me like demons. All of them had their work to do, and they did it so well. And I found that I was very close to death. And as they stabilized me and they were ready to pull me off of one gurney and put me onto another one and move me into the operating room so that they could do the life-saving surgeries, I looked at the doctor who had been working on my chest and I said, "Doctor, would you pray for me?" And these doctors work all around the country. I have no idea if they had a religion or they were spiritual, but I asked. And the doctor said, yes. He said a beautiful prayer. He prayed that I would live through the night. And when he said amen, the quiet that had involved everyone in the emergency room was broken by the cacophony of everyone doing their job. And I was rushed into the emergency room. They did the necessary things to save me. That same doctor told my wife the next morning that they gave me a 3% chance of living through the night. And her trip from California to Utah, they thought would have been for a funeral to see someone who is still clean to. I learned as the time went on, the other half of what I learned while laying in my automobile, slipping away into the darkness. That while dying is easy, living is. And that taught me how important life is. We work hard at living. Life is not easy. It is full of pain. It is full of sorrows. But it is also the great adventure that souls and spirits seek so that they may grow, so that they may feel, that they may touch, that they can have a heart to expand and overflow with joy and healing. We can learn to see the light and feel the light and bring the light. And we can experience the darkness and pain and sorrow, which expands us into incredible beings. Life is important. Life is the great adventure. And I learned to be very, very grateful that I've had the opportunity to be here, to feel all those things, to understand better the light because I have known the darkness, to appreciate the great creation, to create that appreciation inside myself. And to know that we never really die. One of the most important things that I learned, and I've spoken of it today, with regards to the oneness of all things, I learned to appreciate my fellow human beings, my sisters, my brothers. And I learned that I need to perceive in the same way that God perceives us. He loves us. God embraces us. I didn't experience a judgment or a critical return to the next dimension. I was embraced and filled with love. And I was treated as if I had accomplished something. And I was full of healing and kindness. I learned that lesson, and it has taken a lifetime to embrace it. Some time ago, I was reading a book by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Buddhist monk. He passed away just a year ago now. He was from Vietnam, and he played an enormous part in helping human beings all around the world. His life was full of service and full of love. And I remember I sat down in a doctor's office waiting for my turn, and I was reading the final chapter of Thich Nhat Hanh's book, and I read his words, which are the most eloquent words with regards to who we are and how we fit into the creation, and the aspect and idea of the oneness, being a part of the oneness, and what that really means. Thich Nhat Hanh was a big part of what happened after the Vietnam War era. And looking at all the faces this morning that were coming onto Zoom, I see that most of us will probably remember those times after the war when Southeast Asia was in crisis, and literally hundreds of thousands of people, actually over 4 million people, were leaving Southeast Asia, all of the countries, especially Vietnam, and they were finding any boat that would float, large or small, and they were pushing out to sea and filling the South China Sea with tiny boats, all hoping that the winds and currents would blow them to a safe place where they could live their life without fear of death, without being persecuted for their education or how they perceived life, or if they were religious or not religious. And literally 4 million people known as the boat people, pushed out onto the oceans and allowed the wind to push them to safety. Many ended up in China, many ended up in Malaysia, and eventually the UN, being pushed by people like Thich Nhat Hanh to put up camps and relocation centers for these people, began to help the people who were out on these tiny boats looking for a new place to live their life. And he talked a lot about that in his book. His book is called, one of his books is called Peace is Every Step. And he talks about what it was like to be on these small boats, struggling to survive. Obviously, the boats were overloaded. There was never enough water. There was never any food. People weren't allowed to take any belongings, so they were absolutely impoverished, and whatever they had with them was on their person. And of course, when you have people in the ocean, you also have the humans, and that will take advantage of that situation. So these people were harassed by sea pirates. Sea pirates who would come from the coastal cities in Southeast Asia, and being impoverished themselves, they preyed upon the boat people. Obviously, on the boats, there were many young women. So sea pirates would board these small boats, these impoverished crafts, and they would take whatever they could find. They would take their last water, their last food, any items that they had on their person, they would steal. And often they would rape the young women. Thich Nhat Hanh talks about one of these young women who had been raped, and after the sea pirates had left, the young woman was unable to reconcile herself and what had happened to her. And she threw herself from the boat and drowned herself in the ocean. Hahn wrote a poem about this, and I liked reading this poem. This is a poem about the reality of our existence on this planet. Do not say that I'll depart tomorrow, because even today I am moving. Look deeply. I arrive in every second to be a bud on a spring branch, to be a tiny bird with wings still fragile, learning to sing in my new nest, to be a caterpillar in the heart of a flower, to be a jewel hiding itself in a stone. I still arrive in order to laugh and to cry, in order to fear and to hope. The rhythm of my heart is the birth and death of all that I am. I am the mayfly metamorphing on the surface of the river, and I'm the bird which, when spring comes, arrives in time to eat the mayfly. I'm the frog swimming happily in a clear pond, and I'm also the grass snake who, approaching in silence, feeds itself on the frog. I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, legs as thin as bamboo sticks. and I am the arms merchant selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I'm the 12-year-old girl refugee on a small boat who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a sea pirate. And I am the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. I'm a member of the Politburo with plenty of power in my hands, and I am a man who has to pay his debt of blood to my people, dying slowly in a forced labor camp. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom in all walks of life. My pain is like a river of tears, so full it fills 4 oceans. Please call me by my true names, so I can hear all my cries and laughs at once, so I can see that my joy and pain are one. Please call me by my true name, so I can wake up, and so the door of my heart can be left open, the door of compassion. We live in a world of light and dark. We will meet people who are a burden. We will meet people who are in pain. We will meet people who fill the world with light. And we're all one.
That's right. Wow.
That's my story. And I leave it with you this morning. Thanks
Wow.
to me. God bless you.
Wow. Beautiful, Evan. Thank you so much for that beautiful, beautiful share. And yeah, I love everything you shared with us today. The book that you were reading, is that Peace is Every Step?
Peace is every step. Yes. I
Yeah.
pick, not on.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Wrote many books, and is people feel in Vietnam that he's their patron saint. I had a fascinating experience a few months ago. I had just spoken on a podcast that goes around the world, and it was on Jeff Mara's podcast, I believe, and I received an email from a person in Vietnam, and they were so excited and grateful that I knew who Thich Nhat Hanh was, and that I had quoted him in one of my presentations. And they said, if you ever come to Vietnam, you have a home here. You are welcome to stay with us. And I thought, how amazing, you know,
Yeah.
a little voice speaking someplace in America, and
Yeah.
it reaches all around the world.
Yeah. We never know how our words will affect people, right? In such a positive way.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love him too. And he has a beautiful poem slash done to music video on YouTube called The Great Bell. Well, it's a chant, and it's called The Great Bell Chant. And it's really, really beautiful and special. So if anybody wants to check that out on YouTube, it's really, really beautiful. All right. So now is our time to um, raise our hand if we have any questions or comments or insights, feedback, anything that touched you, anything you're curious about. Now is the time.
Okay.
Rabbi David.
Yes. How are you? First of all, this was extremely interesting. I thank you for going on this Ollie and opening up some ideas that someone might not have. I might have had some interesting things. I had a fractured skull when I was 8 years old, nearly lost me. But maybe I'd never documented as much. But I was going to ask you, are you familiar with Kabbalah or Jewish mysticism? Okay. So you know that some of the concepts, some of the things that you discussed are actually in that system, so to speak. It promises us, but nobody did actually. I always tell my congregants or people I know that nobody came back to tell us. You just did that you had an experience. What's in the next world? So it's better to do the best you can, good things for people in this world, than when you get to some point at the end that they don't say, "Oh, you? Oh no, you're not coming." So that's what I tell people: be good, do good things, and I think you do. And I'm very anxious to look up some material on you. And that poem, could you send us how we could find it? Because I write poetry, but this is simply beautiful. The expressions and the language that you use are something. First of all, we can all relate to similar things. And that's the important thing. That's what a poet does. And as well as other things you do, you are a poet, because that's beautiful, beautiful words. And I'd like to read more about some of the things that you've done. Please send it to us. And thank you for our leader, Reverend Catherine, for thinking of this course. And I've been in Ollie for many years, and I lead some of the workshops. I'm thinking of doing one on Kabbalah, actually. But this was a very inspiring thing. I want to tell you that the last class I went into, I think it might have been the first class. For some reason, I wasn't in a mood, and I didn't feel right that day anyway, so I turned it off. But this I could not turn off. I said, I want to see what this class is all about, and I want to see this. So thank you again. I don't want to take up any more time. Somebody else has questions. Thank you for what you do and what you presented to us.
Thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate that very, very, very much. You're very kind. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rabbi David. And if you want to send me the poem, Evan, I can send that out in next week's.
I can do that.
I send out a little weekly reminder about what we're going to have coming up, and we can add that.
I don't think I'm on your email. If you have a pen, just mark down MB Rabbi at AOL.com. I'd like to be on your list. I'd like to hear more. And M is in Mary, B Rabbi at AOL.com. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to take up the class.
Okay. Did you say MB Rabbi?
Yeah, M is in Mary, B is I was the rabbi, the Master Beekeeper Center years ago. So I still keep that email. So
all right. I'll send it out to you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much.
Right. All right. So who else would like to ask a question? Insights, comments? Sheila, did you want to?
Yeah. Let's see. Am I, oh yeah. Okay.
She is.
Yeah. I thank you so much for your words, gratitude. My husband was in Vietnam, and he used to, when he looked back, he'd tell me how they loved him because he was 6 foot tall and they were much smaller. So they always wanted him to be on their volleyball team. He was there for a year, and he was an advisor there. And one day they were all playing, and somebody threw a grenade, and one of the Vietnamese picked it up and threw it elsewhere. It was right at my husband's feet.
Wow.
So how life can change. And he recognized how fortunate he was. I've just recently, in December of this 24, fell. I had a GI bleed, and I ended up going to the hospital, and I fell in the hospital, and I didn't remember things. My daughter told me, "Oh, you fell again." So I'm healing from that. So I recognize the gratitude, though, in my life. And my kids all came together. I was like that, and they'd say, Mom, look, yesterday you didn't even move your leg, and today you can move your toes. So they presented another aspect. And the deacon from my church, I was really, really in the pits. Things that they were doing to me wasn't working, and my daughter had gone to California, so there was nobody around as my spokesperson. And I didn't want my other kids to know, and I didn't want to call my daughter. So the deacon came just out of nowhere, and she's sitting there, and I'm crying my eyes out. And I was never a crier. I always kept it in. But
Me
it
too.
was
Me too.
release,
That's
and
my
it opened me up. What?
Me too. I keep my tears in. I've been crying through this whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. I hear it, and it opens us up, and it made me recognize how fortunate I am. Where
Beautiful.
people in the rehab had nobody to talk to, nobody to speak for them, and I had my children, and they spoke for other people. So anyway, it out of a terrible situation, and I'm still healing, going to PT, OT. It really opened me up, I think, really opened me up. And it opened some of my family up too. That's funny. My sister one day called me, and my husband has passed away since, and my sister called me on the phone. She's crying, crying, crying. She was crying for me.
Oh,
She said, because you have no husband to help you. But it was such a gift. Her tears were such a gift to me. I'll never forget it. So
mm,
thank you. It was wonderful, even. And I know, again, it's a rough situation, and you came out of it, and it's a
yeah,
blessing. Thank
yeah,
you for sharing.
absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Thank you for sharing. All right. Anybody else want to share? Fred, did you want to say something? Yeah.
I was just curious about your recuperation and seeing how the doctors gave you only a 3% chance of survival. I would guess your family became quite a support system for you.
Yes, indeed, indeed. That's very true. In reality, my family, both my parents and the family that is mine here, um, are amazing support systems, right? And um, the love that we have for each other, the way we interact, and the way we spend our time together is a tremendous support. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it took a long time to recover.
Mm.
But, I had hit my knee. I guess when the truck hit me, it shifted my body, and my knee hit the dashboard, and it drove my my femoral head right through the hip and broke off the top of the femoral head. So they didn't even tell me about that for 2 full weeks because they didn't expect me to live and didn't want to burden me. And after 2 weeks in the hospital, they had to go back in and operate on the lower extremities to fix those. So it was an ongoing physical bath in pain and um,
Wow.
operation. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting how they arrived at a 3% chance of survival. How,
Yeah.
how do you determine that?
You know, they have
What
literally
happened to the
like,
97%?
everything up, and they give everything a value, and they came up with that.
Wow.
So,
Wow. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Fred.
thank you.
All right. I have a question.
Yeah.
So after your near death experience and after your healing, which about how long would you say the physical recovery, how long did that take? And then how did your life change from before and after? Was there a shift in what you did or what you focused on in the world, or how did that experience change your life?
You know, what you said is really interesting because you said, was there a shift in what you did? Um, the biggest shift was in how I did everything.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, it was as if a fire was inside of me that drove me on to look at everything again with new eyes, with a fresh perspective. I was driven to behave differently, and that didn't come overnight. But you're driven to constantly improve how you behave and how you control your own emotions, how you deal with your ego, and how it applies and affects other people. When I had my life review, I saw that it wasn't what I considered big in the material world that I was seeing. I was seeing how I affected other people. And so my life has been focused on how can I behave better? How can I, being broken open, and as one lady pointed out, the light, when you're cracked open, the light comes out of you, right? And I realized that I'm a part of the creation, and I can behave in a way that brings light, in a way that brings darkness, or I can go hide someplace as well. And,
Right.
and the drive was always for self-improvement and to do things better, to be kinder, to watch how my heart feels when I interact with others, so that um, I, I I know when I'm behaving correctly. It feels right. I
Right. Right.
know when I am not in control because it doesn't feel. So there's that constant push to be the best you can be, the kindest you can be. So that's the big change that came about. I did things better. I did things with more thought, with less emotion, with less anger. I chose to uh, deal with things that would happen to me that would arise a reaction, an egoic reaction, and I would choose not to react, to put away my ego and allow things to move forward without without consternation, without defense, and without hurting others because of how I may have been hurt. So those are the big lessons, right? That constantly play out in my mind and in my heart. And I think that's lovely, and that does motivate you to do things differently as well. Um, I was a businessman for a large portion of my life. How I did business changed.
Mhm.
I didn't have customers or peers or um, people I did business with and had expectations of. I made those people my friends, and I treated them with love, and handshakes turned to hugs rather than the typical way we interact with each other. So you can do whatever you wish in life, but it's how you do it
Right.
make it filled with light.
Yeah.
Can I ask something to you? I'm sorry, I'm not a great computer person to put up my hand on the computer. Rabbi David, is it possible somehow to communicate with you? Would that be proper for you to either through Reverend Catherine or whoever? I would like to have some kind of a dialogue with you, if that's a possibility.
Well, I give permission.
Okay.
For Catherine to share my email.
Yes, I would like to have it.
Okay.
And you're welcome to email me, and we will converse. And yeah, absolutely. I would love that, Rabbi.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure too. All right. All right. And how long did the recovery time take?
Well,
Like the really heavy part of the recovery. I'm sure there were things that still lingered, right, over time. Yeah.
is the still linger now.
Yeah.
It turned out that my my thoracic cage was crushed, especially on the left side, and I have the use of only one lung, so I sleep with oxygen every night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Well, the recovery continues, but nonetheless, I was incapacitated for about a half a year, 6 months,
Mhm.
and I went through a whole series of interactions with doctors. You know, doctors in the beginning said, you know, your right leg will never recover, you'll never walk right, and I just kept working at it, and I was able to within a year I was running on as a way to keep fit, and I
Wow. That
became
is great.
I became physically fit, and I was able to interact with my children, to play sports with them. I have been able to recover very well, and have led. God has blessed me to live a very wonderful
Mhm.
life. Thank you.
Wow. And you went back to school after your
I
your
did.
your death experience. And what did you go to school for? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I started going back to learn. I took classes on religion. I looked at every religion. I read. I read everything from the Talmud to the Quran, and all the Buddhist popular Buddhist texts.
Mhm.
I found the Bhagavad Gita through a synchronicity, and fell in love with the concepts in that beautiful book of poems, if you will. And it was a lovely journey. Um, I I always my initial degree was in history, and I loved history, and I have always loved the history of religion. So that was easy for me to do, and so I investigated everything, and
Mhm.
I found love and kindness in every perspective. So it was a lovely journey, and I went back to school, and became a part of academia, and I took a great deal of time, many years, to go through the programs that were offered, and I am now a transpersonal psychologist.
Wonderful.
Where do you live now, may I ask? Where do you live now? Where do you live? Where do you
I
live?
live in I actually live in a small town. It's in northwest of Denver, by about it's a 25-minute drive to Denver from where I live. And my city borders on Boulder and Lafayette and Louisville, and it's called Broomfield. And it's a lovely, lovely place.
Very nice. And Evan, it says you're a certified dream counselor and a teacher of meditation, a minister, a clinical hypnotherapist, and NLP practitioner, Reiki therapist, and spiritual healer. So you've done so many things. Yeah.
Yes, yes, it's been an absolute wonderful journey to go through all of those things. And you know, the spiritual healing is fascinating. I was part of a group here in Boulder, Colorado, that was almost everyone was from Brazil, and they were all spiritists. And spiritists use spirits to do healing. And
Right.
so I did a deep dive into that as well, and I found that to be absolutely amazing. So I
Yeah.
would say
Beautiful.
it was a wonderful experience, and I started with another individual, a group called the Healing Connection, and it was basically a group of individuals from all cultures and all religions that are local, and we would come together, and if someone was ill or asked for healing, we would all pray for that individual, and we had amazing experiences with people who were healed from cancer and other deadly diseases that they were dying from.
Wow.
So it was an incredible experience.
Is that something that is still ongoing? Is that something people can look into if they wanted to?
They can.
Yeah, and it's called the Healing Connection. Is it online? Somehow people can get
Yes.
information on that online?
There should be some things online about that. Yes.
Okay.
If I can throw out one thought, and I do a lot of visitations, when people know somebody is praying for them, it absolutely helps them to feel better. It's been proven, and people don't know this. And I've been going through this a long time. And you just mentioned a while ago about spiritual. This is unbelievable. When people know somebody's praying for them, whoever that is, they kind of feel better. It helps them often to get through the hard times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm being prompted to read something. May I read something?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
One of my favorite translations of the Zohar is by Daniel Matt. And I showed this book before. I have read 5 different translations of the Zohar. This one by Daniel Matt has a foreword by Andrew Harvey. I don't know if any of you know Andrew Harvey, but he's
Yes.
an Oxford scholar.
Mhm.
He has translated Rumi and other great poets, and he is a brilliant man. And he writes, "We are not simply to be slaves to the divine will, or to vanish into transcendent union with it," talking about God. "We are here to be transparent vessels of its power and creativity, the healthy and supple limbs, if you like, through which it enacts its dance in the real. Without our conscious, willed, inspired participation, God is incomplete. God needs us to realize God's design in and for the world. We are co-creator through God's grace with God itself.
That's right.
What we do and what we choose affects, in fact, not only this world, but also the structure of the entire universe.
Wow.
It continues. We are here to be the site of the sacred marriage of heaven and earth, of the primordial light and matter, to be the place where the fusion of all dimensions is effected, so that divine passion through us can remake and reshape every arena and institution, every art and science of the world. Listen to this. When all human beings everywhere start to realize both the responsibility and the glorious powers such a relationship to God opens for them, the creation of a new world can begin.
Mm. Wow. Very powerful words and beautifully, beautifully said.
What a summary, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna look for that book.
Can
Oh,
I suggest one book, God in Search of Man by Abraham Joshua Heschel? In other words, God is looking for us. When we
That's
may
right.
pray to God, I'll leave you with a thought. He wants us to be certain ways. I'm sorry, I had to throw that in because
No, and that's brilliant what you bring up, Rabbi. And if you step into other perspectives, right? If you talk about Hinduism, in Hinduism, God's looking for us, right?
Yes, that's right.
Here you have one perspective over here, one religion, one perspective, one religion over here, and what is it?
Yeah,
It's telling us the same thing.
they meet in the middle. Beautiful. I love it. All the common threads, right, that span throughout all of these religions and faith traditions, which is love and unity, peace, compassion. It's wonderful. All right. I see we are a little over our time, and I just so appreciate you being here with us, Evan. Evan is a busy man. He is the president-elect for International Association for Near-Death Studies, IANS. And so I'm so happy to hear that, Evan. I'm so excited for you, and I know you have your plate full, more than full. So just know that we are so appreciative of you being here and giving us your heart and your time and your wisdom and your beautiful self. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Bless
you.
you.
so much.
Thank
Bye.
you so much.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Love you all.
Bye. Have a great week.
Thank you.
You
Bye-bye.
all too. Oh, God. Okay.